Well, it is great to have you back for the watch list. I'm Laura from Hope 1032. Russ is here too. Hello.
Hey, this is Russ from Real Dialogue. I am so excited. I've got my Chris knife ready to go. I've got the still suit on. I am ready to ride the sandworms of Arrakis. We are going to Dune Part 2. I cannot wait to talk about this movie. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it, Laura?
It's a huge story. So you've got Timothée Chalamet, he plays Paul, Zendaya is in this as well. Austin Butler makes an appearance as the baddie, but it is the story of Paul Atreides, who Timothée Chalamet plays, of course, and he's leading a Fremen rebellion against House Harkonnen on Arrakis. There's a bit of warfare, political intrigue, etc., but really key to this story is whether or not Paul is this prophesied messiah that so many have been speaking about, and he's kind of got to grapple with the reality of what it would mean to be this prophesied messiah. But there's also some power struggles that come from people's belief in him, or in fact their lack of belief in him as being this quote-unquote chosen one. So it's a pretty deep kind of storyline.
I just found this one incredible. The first one was really good. It was a good setup, but this one was just amazing as far as character development, more action, more Zendaya, which I don't know if I think everybody was complaining about the first one a little bit. I'm looking forward to hearing what your thoughts are.
I will say that I'm not normally a huge sci-fi genre person, so I have my select few that I'll watch and I can enjoy them. But one thing I've always struggled with this genre, I don't know what it says about me, but honestly, genuinely, for like the first time in a long time, I will say with Dune and Dune 2 especially, I really felt it. I really got it. I knew who these characters were. I understood the significance of the sort of the legend, if you like, of these worlds and these planets and these people. And I just thought that was done so well with these stories, because I really enjoy the bigness of what sci-fi movies have to offer and how much imagination often goes into these movies. But one thing that I always feel a little bit sad about is that I'm just not quite resonating with what the heart of the story is at times, whereas Dune 2 for me nailed it. And I thought that's such a good thing, because for people who come to this genre with different levels of interest, or different kind of personalities, whatever the audience is that are watching Dune 2, I feel like it's far more accessible to a broader audience than some of the more traditional sci-fi movies may have been in the past.
Oh, I definitely can see how this one resonates on that level, because I feel like most of the characters are kind of human. I mean, human in their, their distinction. I mean, at least humanoid. So yeah, it definitely can kind of connect. But on top of it, it's really just a kind of a love story with a prophetic kind of spiritual element that kind of resonates, I think, in so many other storylines, that this one is also done beautifully. But on top of it, I think that one of the things that they've got this kind of the character development of Paul in this whole film kind of moves us along on that journey. And you can definitely see it after seeing him in the first one, because I thought Timothée Chalamet looked like a little boy in the first one. While this one, he definitely kind of comes off as a man, and one that can actually take on the mantle of Messiah, if that's really what his role and title should be. So I thought he was great. And then on top of it, I think Zendaya, I think this is probably one of her better films. I just really felt like she stood out, did a great job of being a really strong female lead along with that. But Elvis is in the building. I don't know, Austin Butler, man, he was great. I was really surprised. He shaved head, shaved eyebrows, nothing. I mean, all white, and he was a great villain. I really thought that he stood out as a way of kind of transitioning and showing, because, I mean, you got to love Dave Bautista. I mean, he is a formidable man. He's just massive. But this one was just a crazy character. So for who he was able to play and be able to do and represent this House of Harkonnen, I thought was really good. On top of it, Rebecca Ferguson, even though I know she's supposed to be kind of a good guy or on the good side, but boy, I wouldn't want to come up against her. She was like, that was incredible. And then on top of it, go ahead.
This is something that they did do really well in this movie, was the way they were able to morph the characters from the first one. Like, if you're going, because we haven't said this, but this movie is almost 3 hours long. It's like 2 hours, 46 minutes runtime. So if you're going to, and the first one's similar to that, if you're going to hold people's attention for that length of time across two movies as well, like there's got to be character development. There's got to be these traits
Yeah.
that come out where you go, I thought you were a good guy. Why are you now seeming so villainous? And what's your motivation? And so that's something that this movie did super well, was to bring new developments into the characters in a way that kept you engaged. And as you've said, Austin Butler, he's really good as a baddie. I almost like him more as a baddie than as Elvis. And there were actually in the cinema, in the rows around me, people were like kind of whispering before the movie started, like, do you think he's still going to sound like Elvis? Has he been able to ditch the accent? You know, because apparently if you'd watched any of the interviews post Elvis, you saw him with the Elvis accent still there.
Yeah.
And then he said that he had to do a speech therapy to rid himself of that accent because it stuck with him so much. And so I do feel like with Dune 2, you're listening a bit, and he doesn't really say a lot of words in his role, but when he does, you're like, yeah, there's not quite as much of like the Memphis twang as there is in Elvis. So he did a really good job in that respect too.
Oh, I agree with you. I think that the character development, each person had a role to play. I mean, the only thing, if I had any knocks, because I really have very few knocks on this film, because even at 2 hours and 47 minutes, I sit down at the end and go, oh no, I want more. I mean, this left me wanting to sit in the cinema and get more content. I mean, it was so good. And I'm looking forward to the next one. But if I had any knock, it was maybe on some of the casting. Christopher Walken, I'm like, as the Emperor, I was like, was that supposed to be like a Joe Biden kind of knock or something? I don't know. Just so old and frail. I don't know. And then maybe, I love Florence Pugh as an actress. I think she's great, but her character, I'm hoping they kind of develop in the third film, because she seemed to be kind of a throwaway character. But besides that, those are the only things. I mean, the action, the story development, every element of it also kind of made me appreciate this novel was written back in 1965. You can see even some of the other great sci-fi films of the past few decades have taken from it at different points. But yet, despite that, even though you can see whispers of maybe some Star Wars and maybe some other, and even Star Trek a little bit, really this stands on its own. I really find this is one of the best films, not only of the years, well, I mean, this year there's not much else to put it up against, but even since Oppenheimer, I don't know if I've really seen a film that has been that captivating, and I think it's definitely worthwhile. This goes the top of my watch list, not only for this year, but also really for the past almost couple of years. I mean, it is just a great film, worthwhile seeing, even if you're not, like, this goes back to your point, Laura, even if you're not a sci-fi fan, even if you haven't even seen the first one yet, this one is worth getting out to see. And so I would highly recommend it. But then on top of it, don't let the opportunities go by where you aren't talking about this movie, because there's just so many elements that you'll be able to talk about well after the film is over, that'll get you kind of wondering and pondering even more about your own personal life and even your own personal faith. So I think it's definitely worth it. So I'm assuming this makes it your watch list too, Laura.
Oh, it makes the watch list, absolutely. And I was just thinking, I think it's kind of in the way that, you know, you've loved this movie so much. I really appreciated a lot about it. I think it's kind of met a need that other movies just haven't been for a while. Particularly, you know, the last movie we spoke about, Madam Web. Like, you go from Madam Web to Dune 2. It's like you literally feel like you found some water in the desert, right?
Totally.
So I think it's been really refreshing. But Russ, I mean, great chatting with you about Dune 2. Yes, it's on both of our watch lists. As we wrap it up for today, just want to remind everybody to subscribe to the watch list wherever you're listening. You can find this podcast across all of the different platforms, and you can follow us on the Hope 1032 YouTube channel as well, where there's video versions of many of these podcasts. So thank you all for listening. Really appreciate it.
I always love it. And remember, he who controls the spice controls the universe.